We begin with Russia, where the polls have officially closed, and no surprises, Vladimir Putin has secured a fifth term in office. In a record post-Soviet landslide, Putin won 88% of the vote, cementing his already tight grip on power. Now, Vladimir Putin has ruled Russia since the turn of the century, either as president or prime minister. And the 2024 results brought an even larger victory for Putin. His rule until at least 2030, securing a third full decade of rule.
First of all, I want to thank the citizens of Russia. We are all one team. All the citizens that came out to polling stations and voted. Once again, I want to say this is very important. This has no formal character. The source of authority in the nation is the Russian people.
Now, in his first speech after victory, Putin has warned the West of a third world war. The Russian president said a direct conflict between Moscow and U.S.-led NATO would mean the planet was on one step away from World War III.
I think that anything is possible in the modern world. But I've already said this, and it is clear to everyone that conflict between Russia and NATO will be just one step away from a full-scale World War III. I don't think anybody is interested in this. NATO military are present in Ukraine. We know this. We hear the French speech there and the English speech. There's nothing good in this. Firstly for them, because they get killed, that too in large numbers. But at the end of the day, it is not our choice. If somebody wants to cover the internal problems of their countries with their external aggressive rhetoric, well, this is a well-known and widely used trick. I would love France not to play the role, which only escalates the conflict and deepens it, provokes it. But instead, like it was said here before, did something to find ways to peaceful solutions. In this sense, France could play its role, but not all is lost yet.
The Russian president also criticized the United States political system and seemed to back Donald Trump in his legal troubles.
You want to know my opinion regarding whether our elections are democratic or not? I believe they are democratic. And on the contrary, in some countries such as yours, you can consider the use of administrative resources to attack one of the presidential candidates, including courts. We have no preference for any of the candidates for President of the United States of America. We will work with anyone who the voters trust. But the use of administrative resources of the judicial system, well, it has become simply ridiculous and a disgrace to the whole world for the United States. For your democratic, so-called quote-unquote system, I have every reason to believe that today we do not observe any democracy in your country, at least during the election processes, in some Western countries, including the USA.
Now, the landslide victory does provide Putin the rhetorical ammunition as the West is at odds over continued support for Ukraine. Some polling stations in Russia witnessed protests on the final day of voting, and supporters of deceased opposition leader Alexei Navalny called on people to protest against Putin. Now, according to reports, more than 60 Russians were detained across 16 cities on the final day of voting. But with Putin now tightening his grip on power, the room for protest in Russia is likely to shrink even further.